Welcome back to another episode of Fresh Out of College. Today we have a guest, new face to our podcast, Destin Newfont, one of our friends from University of Puget Sound. Played Frisbee, had a radio show with Drew. Super fun, cool guy to be around, watches sports, loves sports like us. That's why it's awesome for this. So we're going to talk about soccer because Dustin is pretty knowledgeable about MLS as well. And he watched the Sounders game, which was a major disappointment. 4-1 loss to LAFC in the round of 16. Your gut reaction, Dustin?
What about my gut reaction? I'm just kidding. You can go first. I have a gut reaction too.
Okay,
I watched. Okay, so this is my first game watching the Sounders in, I think, a year. I think I watched. I think we watched win last year when they were in the playoffs. I don't know, but it's just the amount of defense. I don't know. Is defense the strong point for the Sounders? Is it usually?
Not this year. No.
Okay, then never mind. Giving up 4. Is 4 goals like a lot? I feel like 4 goals is a lot.
That's a huge amount. Yeah.
So my gut
Especially in the
reaction
playoffs.
was like, but where's the control? But I mean, there's some bright spots. That's disappointing, especially my first game. I feel like they should have performed better when I watched.
What were the bright spots, Drew?
There was one guy that came off the bench. Is that what you call it? The bench? Yeah, came off the bench. Was super fast. Put a lot of crosses in, and he actually assisted on a goal. So what's his name, Ryota?
Jovan Jones.
Yeah, that guy. I liked him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a bright spot. Took a I guess 2 years off from the Sounders, but came back for his second championship with them in the fall. Jovan Jones, great player. But no, I mean, my gut reaction is I really don't think. I mean, as Sounders fans, we've been quite spoiled the last 4 years. We expect championships every time there's competition. I think, for one, I don't think the Heat favored us. I don't think we do well in that kind of heat. You could tell pretty early on that, especially our attacking guys like to get out and run. Especially Jordan Morris, looked pretty gassed from the start. So I think that didn't favor us. I think also the fact that we haven't had a full season to prepare and to get our chemistry going. Brian Schmetzer. I think honestly it was a great game for Brian Schmetzer just to show how much he can do with those guys if he has a full season coaching them and getting them to become more cohesive. So I thought that was a great look for him just to be like, yeah, these are the same guys that whooped on LAFC plus Carlos Vela just literally 8 months ago. So I think that was a positive takeaway to show that when we do have a full season, we can be a lot better. I do think the defense was a huge problem. I think not really having a solid center back at this point is a big issue. Both of the first 2 goals especially were just really the first 3 goals were pretty just bad errors from our center backs. So that's definitely a problem going forward. We need to address that. But I think our attacking trio up front is still solid. They made a lot of chances when of the few times that they had the ball up there. The midfield probably needs a little work as well. Christian Roldan was solid, but he didn't have a lot of help. Other than that, defense did not look good. But again, I think overall, as Sounders fans, we come to expect that we're just going to win everything every time there's like a tournament or competition. That's just not realistic. But I do think it was not our best performance.
No, I like what you said. The Sounders historically have performed really well in the second half of the whole season. The first half of the season sometimes is very brutal. Like even the MLS Cup run we had, we were awful the first half, and there were questions of whether we'd even make the playoffs. But I think all Sounder fans know that we're a second half team, especially after Schmetzer's taken over, and we take off and figure things out, and that's when we're the best. And unfortunately, this rush into the season is not going to favor a team like us where team chemistry is super important because, again, I think LFC absolutely dominated us. Their midfielders were so much quicker. They passed, they got the ball. And I think that showed. So I think, going forward, we need to have a solid defense like Chad Marshall and the Roman Torres or Kim Keehee and Roman Torres or whatever. We need a good duo to leverage the backfield and anchor it down because Stefan Fry can't do everything by himself like we watched. And I actually thought Roldan played crap. I actually didn't really like how he played. I feel like he just wasn't on the ball very much, and he was kind of slow and lazy, but I think the Heat had to do, a lot of it. And I don't know. I think even moving forward, like based on how our fullbacks are, and also I hated Nuhu. I still hate him, and just can't take him anymore. I think there might need to be a formation change. We could maybe get into later, but yeah, like Drew said, Jovan Jones looked good. He's coming back from injury and put in some good balls. And Will Bruin's first game back from injury, who I think will need to start. I think we need to have 2 forwards next year with Rides and him, but that's kind of what I think. Drew, any other things you had on the game? Things you noticed?
Yeah, I think you guys both touched on it, and I kind of wanted to as well. I think the heat, especially in Florida, with the humidity being so much, I think that could have played a huge factor. Granted, I didn't watch a lot of them this year. I watched this game, but it did seem like they were a bit less acclimated to it than the LAFC team. It's also, this is not really for the game, but the game was played past midnight. Do you guys know why it was played so late? Is that because it was just so
I think
unbearable?
it's probably less. So it's not as hot, I think.
Okay.
And I think there are a bunch of games going on, so they needed just to segment the TV. Maybe, I don't know.
Because that game went to like 1 a.m. there.
Yeah, it was.
So maybe, do you think that could have played a factor, or is it just overall sloppy play due to LAFC being so much better? That's team chemistry.
I think we were outplayed. I mean, LAFC was for favorites to start with.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like Dustin said, like Sounders fan. I mean, as Sounder fans, we've been spoiled. I think this was not our best team. I think I want to ask Dustin about the future after this, but I think we're not in a rebuild, but we're kind of in a weird spot because, again, we don't have a set defense. I think we're waiting on a couple of young guys to get better, anchor the midfield too, and there's questions about Nico Lodero staying in Seattle or not. And he signed an extension. Never mind. But it'll be interesting to see how the Sounders go moving forward because there have been interesting changes from our GM in the past. So, yeah.
What do you think,
didn't really
Destin?
answer your question, but
it's okay. What do you think, Destin? What do you think about the future?
Well, I think as Ryota touched on, like having Nico Lodero is huge. I think he's at the center of everything that happens to the Sounders. He has been ever since he came in 2016 and turned the season around. Won the championship, and they've been right there at the top ever since. I do think we need some more of his playmaking, creative types. Another player, in that role. Victor Rodriguez has been kind of in that role the last couple of years, but someone that can kind of come off the bench and make a huge difference. I think that's necessary. Hopefully, Jovan Jones will be starting, and so he won't really have that role. I think the biggest thing is just being able to find a solid, center defensive player that can hold it down back there. Stephen Fry is still one of the greatest goalkeepers in the MLS, so that's not an issue. But having someone in front of him that he can trust, that can clear the ball effectively, is going to be important. But I think kind of back to what you're saying about why the game was maybe so late. It seems like Fox is now addicted to this thing of blank after dark. We have Pac-12 after
Pac-12 after dark. Yep.
Trying this whole new MLS after dark. It's like it wasn't really that good to begin with. I don't really know why they're kind of hammering down on that, but I don't think it was necessarily helped the Sounders that it was that late. But I don't think it helps anyone to play a game starting at 11 p.m. But, I don't think that was had really much to do with why they lost. They were just outplayed. They had less talent. I think it's fair to say they definitely have less talent even without Carlos Vela out there. And they seemed like they had tired legs pretty much from the start. So I think there's definitely room for improvement. But I also again, like if you're going to lose this game to LAFC or the game back in October to LAFC, this is definitely the one that you want to lose. And so I think just keeping an eye on the big picture. If you're a Sounders fan and being like, who really cares about this game? The MLS Cup is what we're focused on every single year. And to have 2 of those in the last 4 years, have 3 appearances, that's really what we should be focusing on.
It's well said. Yeah,
that's a good point. And I think our future is bright. Like, I think as far as next year, I don't know if you've heard of Sam Rogers, but he's been on our Tacoma Defiance team and he's made like multiple youth U.S. appearances. And I think he might be a starting center back next year who might I think they still have Schmetzer still has hopes for Arriaga because he's only 25. So I think, I mean, he hopes Rodgers is to be ready and be able to have that 25 and 20-year-old or whatever, however old Rodgers is, future for a back, and Joven on the right, Joven on the left, Leardom on the right. And I think, I mean, if Nico departs, that would be a huge loss. But I think that's one of the reasons why we signed, Paulo from Brazil to kind of play that attacking role if necessary, or maybe move Roldan up to a more attacking role and have Danny Leva learn to play a center defensive mid as a young guy and kind of anchor that team for the future. And then Handwala Buana, I think he's taking on a larger role. I don't know what you think about his performance, Destin.
I thought he really did not look ready to step into the game. I'm being totally honest. It felt like he just looked a little lost out there, maybe trying to do too much. I'm not really sure. But whenever he dropped back, obviously he's an offensive player and he's not, supposed to do super well defensively, but he dropped back a few times and guys were just blowing by him. Didn't look like he was putting in a lot of effort. Offensively, too many giveaways, too cheaply. So I didn't think he was very polished. I felt like his touch was not great. I do think he has a lot of offensive talent. I think that, the finishing, I guess it's there. We haven't really seen a lot of it, but from everything I've heard, he was a great player at UW, and I would assume that he has that ability in the final third. I feel like we just haven't seen it yet. So I kind of feel like the jury's still out on him. I haven't seen enough of him yet, but I do not think overall he had a very solid performance on this past game.
No, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he's only 23, and this is his first time kind of playing as a starter. He's been kind of a super sub or a bench as the last year, and he's trying to fill kind of a Victor Rodriguez void. And Victor Rodriguez is really good for us on the wing. And yeah, Buana didn't play very well, but I think that's kind of the process that Schmetzer is trying to get him to go through. It's hard also when JMO's getting the ball on the left side all the time, and it's hard to know what to do when you don't get the ball that much, especially as an attacking player like Buana. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think overall we agree the Sounders played crap. But again, if you're a Sounder fan, you're going to be a Sounder fan forever because there's always next year. And you have confidence that we're going to make a run for it as per usual. So
we've never not made the playoffs in MLS. So
exactly,
really nothing to complain about at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's a great discussion.
Do you have any last thoughts?
Nope. You guys said it all. You guys touched on everything. Like you said, there's always a future, and that's a great thing about sports. When you lose in the playoffs, you're not done. You always have next season.
Unless you're a Mariner fan.
Well, the Mariners will always have another season. Let's head over to the Panthers, going to the NFL. And I mean, the Panthers have a new person under center. It's not Cam Newton, it's Teddy Bridgewater. Destin, you being a fan, what are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, I think Cam is going to do very big things up in Foxborough. I think the Patriots are better than they are last season just by adding Cam. Mm-hmm. I think Cam's a lot better than Brady at this stage in their careers. And I think anytime Bill Belichick has great athletes, good things happen. You saw with Randy Moss, especially Gronkowski. So I think the Patriots are going to be dominant again, especially coming out of a weak division. Assuming the season happens, the season might not happen, but actually probably won't happen. But in terms of Panthers, I think it's going to be a lot of Christian McCaffrey. I think we already saw that last year, but we're going to double down on that. So yeah, I think Teddy Bridgewater coming in, learning a new system, not going to go super well, super smoothly right off the bat. But hopefully we get there. I don't have very high hopes. I think if we're playing 16 games, or I guess 17 games, whatever. I think our probably over-unders about 4 wins, but who knows? Did
you put that number out just because it's a new coach, it's a new quarterback, you're still young on defense, or do you think there's hope with Teddy Bridgewater?
No, I don't. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is very good.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, I think he came in and benefited a lot from the fact that the Saints have a great system already in place. Mm-hmm. The Panthers have no system in place at this point, and coming off not a good season last season, losing your franchise player, losing your defensive cornerstone and Luke Kuechly, and now trying to bring in new coaches, new quarterback, a lot of new defensive guys. I don't see it going very well. That's never really been a strategy for success in the NFL. It's always about consistency in leadership, consistency in those key skill positions. So I don't see it going well for the Panthers at least the next 3 or 4 years. It is going to be great to see Chris McCaffrey, but it's going to be sad that it's kind of going to be largely a waste because I don't think it's going to result in anything good.
Do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of, on similar lines with Dustin. Teddy Bridgewater hasn't had he hasn't been the franchise quarterback. I mean, the Vikings thought he was going to be, and then that, we don't know how that ended up with his torn ACL and being a backup for Breeze, and then short stint with the Jets and going, and everything. But I think, with the Panthers situation right now, you're rebuilding, you're focused on getting a team around CMC, DJ Moore, and then, you guys signed 7, defensive guys in this past draft. So I think it's a huge haul you're trying to create here. And I think I'm optimistic about Teddy Bridgewater. He's only 28. I think this is kind of what the Panthers are in, right? They didn't want to go for a big quarterback and try to sign somebody, when they're not trying to win now, but you're also not trying to focus on getting a young quarterback yet. So I think it's kind of a nice in between because, who knows? Bridgewater could break out. They could make a good team around him. They already have some offensive threats for him to utilize. So, and he has a cannon of an arm. He has, Robbie Anderson going deep. DJ Moore is an outstanding wide receiver and looking better and better every year. So I'm going to stay optimistic. I think Bridgewater has a chance to, make an impact for the Panthers, who are kind of in this, rebuilding time. But also, even if things don't work out so well for Bridgewater, that's okay. That's kind of what the Panthers are taking a chance on, right? I think it's not a Cam Newton, contract where it's all incentive based and like the Patriots did. But I think they have a little bit of trust in Bridgewater. But if things don't work out, it's not the end of the world for them. I think that's kind of the mindset that they have.
Yeah. I think the only issue that maybe comes up out of what you said, obviously the Panthers wide receivers have a lot of speed, and that's great to get downfield. But you need an offensive line that can protect you long enough for those players to get downfield. Panthers offensive line has been awful for the last decade and continues to be that way. So only having literally 2 seconds after the ball snapped to get the ball out. You're not going to have time for those receivers to even. DJ Moore's a good route runner, but that's not enough time to get open. Robbie Anderson's great downfield, not enough time to get downfield. So I think it is going to be a big challenge for him to. The thing is, it's going to be trying to get the ball out quick. A lot of little screen passes to McCaffrey, which obviously he's great in space, but you can't. If you're running 90% of your offense to a guy, that's just not going to be that successful.
Yeah, you said it. The offensive line. I think when you have such a great running back, it can kind of mask that how bad your offensive line could be. Just because Chris McCaffrey has broken a lot of tackles, can get upfield, can make the first guy miss, and we see that when you have a great running game, you don't really need to upgrade your line as much as you want to. I think this is specifically with the Seahawks. When Marshawn Lynch was on the team. He was rushing good. Everybody was rushing good, but we've always had a declining offensive line, and I think that it can become more apparent when either Christian McCaffrey gets injured, and then you start seeing everything crumble, or else when the team's losing, everything starts everybody's blitzing, and there's less time. I do want to talk about the coach, Matt Rule. He has a really good track record in college of rebuilding teams at Temple and at Baylor. So I think there's optimistic, and there's I think to be a fan of the Panthers, I think you're happy with the signing of Matt Rule, but you could also point to why not get somebody that has been in the NFL, and why pick a college coach. I think that could be some discussion there too.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, historically, college coaches have not had a lot of success in the NFL. The success rate is pretty low. There is a lot of coaches that NFL experience that are out of a job right now, and I was a little surprised that I guess at one point it makes sense. You're bringing in everyone's new, so why not bring in a new guy and just have a completely clean slate? But I think honestly, it's more for the visual for the fans to be like, yeah, I mean, there's hope with this new guy rather than actually hoping for good results. So yeah, hope is low here in Carolina.
Yeah, it's tough because I mean Chris McCaffrey is just so good, and you kind of like hold on to that. But if your team's not playing and not making the playoffs, it's kind of to waste, like you said earlier, which is a bummer because he is such a talented guy.
He is only 24 though.
Yeah,
but when I say only,
back,
it's hard with a running back. But I think
the
hope is, in a couple of years when he's 26, 28, if he's still good by then, which I think he will be, if Panthers can have some offensive threats. Maybe who knows? Teddy Bridgewater becomes a Pro Bowler this year. You never know. That's a solid team right there. If, the offensive line can be improved.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say for this is I think when your first contract when starting a whole team is your running back, I think there's an issue there. And because, I mean, he did get paid. He is the highest paid running back ever. And there's so much money tied up in that. And I personally don't believe that when you start a team, your first position is the running back. And I think it's always on defense. And I'm glad that the Panthers drafted 7 guys, like you said. I think it was the 7 guys. 7 guys on defense. And that is a cornerstone there. So hopefully those guys can perform and be on the rookie deal. But I do think you need to bring in that offensive line because that is a premium position and that does pay a lot and that does solidify it. Like we saw with, for Houston, Larry Tunsil, they went out and got him. He is a great left tackle. He is helping Deshaun Watson stay upright. And just like all the great teams have the offensive line sort of like intact. So it's interesting when it gets into everything. But yeah.
So also an interesting thing, their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, who's known for the development of Joe Burrow in 2019. Right. So there was the whole thing about, are the Panthers going to trade up to get Joe Burrow? That was kind of an interesting thing. But it's Bridgewater. Any thoughts on, having him as offensive coordinator, Dustin?
Yeah, I do like that signing. I think he'll do well. Obviously, that LSU team was one of the best college teams ever. The offense was one of the best, most smoothly run offenses in college football history. So definitely, I do have some hope there. I think college translates a lot better to those coordinator positions in terms of not having to deal as much with the egos of the NFL players. I think that's one of the biggest issues for a head coach is having to control that at the professional level. So I feel like the coordinator position just transfers a lot better from college, especially those big SEC schools, to the NFL. So I am excited about Brady as an offensive coordinator, and I do think he will get the best out of. I think it'll be good for Chris McCaffrey. I think it'll probably be good for Bridgewater, although I don't think it's going to lead to that much. But I do like the signing. I think that was probably the best available guy we could get. So I was happy with that.
Do you think the Panthers should have gone QB in the draft?
Interesting.
I mean, if you can get Joe Burrow, you want Joe Burrow, obviously. He is an unbelievable talent. I think he's going to be the best QB besides Patrick Mahomes for the next probably 6-7 years. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I would love to have Joe Burrow. That didn't seem to be. We never really seem to be planning to do that, unfortunately. And obviously, if you're Cincinnati, it's going to take a lot for you to give up that pick. So I understand that you don't want to sacrifice too much to try and get Joe Burrow. But honestly, if I'm a GM, I'm doing pretty much whatever it takes to get him.
What about trying to get the Panthers drafted 7th, and that was 1 pick after Justin Herbert and 2 picks after Tua Tagovailoa. Would you have rather had one of those guys and trade up for them, or not?
I mean, yeah, I think I would have.
Okay.
Rather had any of those 3 guys than picking up Bridgewater. But I just think it would have been nice to have a complete restart, have everyone kind of at the same spot where they're all just starting out. Just kind of hand the reins over to Chris McCaffrey and be like, all right, what do you need around you? Have the new guys all grow together and have like a core unit that's all starting from the same spot and hopefully ending in a better place. So that would have been my go a different direction. I do like Herbert a lot. I think Herbert's going to be good, so I definitely would like to grab him, but yeah, we didn't seem to want to do that.
It is interesting what you said, kind of the whole restart. And I think we see that, especially with new coaches, they want to pick their own quarterback. So it was interesting that the Panthers went Teddy Bridgewater. I think if it were to be again, I think Matt Rule might have wanted his own quarterback to kind of live or die off of. I know we've seen that with like Pete Carroll got Russell Wilson. He was adamant about starting him over, who was the Green Bay quarterback, Matt Flynn. He was adamant about that. Bill O'Brien got Deshaun Watson. He wanted him. So it was interesting that the new coaches, especially the coaches that have succeeded from college to the NFL, kind of have their pick of first-round quarterbacks, and we did not see that with Matt Rule. So I don't know. Maybe next. Yeah.
Sorry. Not to nitpick, but I'm looking at the draft picks.
Yeah.
So Panthers picked 38th. They picked the defensive end from Penn State. Jalen Hurts went pick 53. Okay. I was wondering, and I think you could kind of compare Hurts to Newton, and I was wondering if you thought Hurts would have been potentially a good fit for Carolina.
I think, I obviously have a lot of respect for Jalen Hurts as a player, as a person. That's very tough to step aside and let someone else take over a job that you thought you had secured, especially after you lead your team to a championship. So obviously, and then to come back at Oklahoma and have such an impressive season. So I definitely have a lot of respect for him. I don't think he's going to be a great professional quarterback. I don't think his game translates as well as I think some people think it does. So I just overall don't think he'd be a great fit on the NFL team. Obviously, it's very possible I'm proven wrong within a few months. But if I'm the GM of the Panthers, I'm not trying to get him. I'm not really worried about. If I'm not getting any of those top three guys, I'm probably not really worried about picking up anyone in the draft. So yeah.
That's interesting. So if there were to be a 2021 NFL draft, what are you taking first? What position?
I'm going to go down and get Trevor Lawrence.
All right, you hear it first. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence. Or would you get the Justin Fields? No, Trevor Lawrence is the one. It will be interesting because there will be competition for that number one spot. I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think the Panthers are that bad to warrant the number one spot. I think there's some teams that are far off talent-wise worse. So I think Trevor Lawrence might not be the player you guys get, but there's always hope when it comes to that. That guy will be a stud. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting situation over in Carolina. But you guys are hopeful, right?
Not at all.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, Ryota, do you have anything else you want to talk about the Panthers? Any questions you want to bring up, or?
No, can't think of any right now.
Destin, do you have any other last things you want to talk about?
I just want to talk about how excited I am the basketball stack.
What are your picks? Let me know your picks for tonight's game.
LeBron's going to have 62.
Oh my!
Lakers are going to win by 37, and I think Zion's going to go for 40-point triple-double with 18 assists, and I think the Pelicans double up whoever they're playing. I don't know who they're playing.
Yeah, who are they playing?
The Jazz.
The Jazz.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think Zion dominates the Jazz tonight. I think Donovan Mitchell decides he doesn't want to play, and I don't think he plays tonight. And so I think Zion just has his consistency. JJ Redick splashes in a few. He's trying to get back to the playoffs for whatever year he is.
Yep.
In a row. So I think it's going to be a big night for the Pelicans and the Lakers.
Quickly, what's your East-West finals pick?
I think Lakers beat I'm gonna go Sixers. They have a 3%, according to Vegas, they have a 3% chance to make the finals. I think that's super low. So I'm gonna take them as my wild card and win my money from Vegas. So I got the Lakers beating the Sixers in 5.
All right. Well, we'll talk more about that on a future podcast, hopefully, and get your picks and go deeper into it when that comes. But thanks for coming on. As always, I like the new do. It's nice. Make sure you keep it. I know the weather's getting hot.
I haven't changed it. I haven't
Good.
changed it. I haven't touched it since last time I saw it.
Good. All right. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next week.
I appreciate it, y'all.
See ya.